Hey, what's up, Team Sear Performance? And back at the shop. Don't know if you can see me, but working on Tony's Factory 5 Hot Rod 35. It's got the Blueprint engines, LS3, 376, 530 horse. Um, and it had the issue with like a 5-volt reference. So I took and put an entirely new harness on it, which so I put the whole new harness, fuse box, that comes from Chevrolet Performance. Routed everything a little bit different than how it was, but overall, it's a hard harness to kind of try and fit into a really tight space. But I did manage to get the plugs through the door jamb. Sorry for the noise, as the AC is running, it is hot. So the ECU is back in there, the plugs run down through there. I have the dashboard setting up in there. I just loosely have the screws in it. Everything is wired, plugged back in, except for the MIL. I don't know if this gauge cluster, I'm waiting for a call back from Factory 5 to see if the gauge cluster has a warning light on it. And I can tie in the DTC warning light. I have HP tuners hooked back up. I have the DLC connector over here mounted to the panel with a couple of screws, and I turned it on just a slight angle just to get the plug in there a little bit easier. And currently shutting off the light, there we go. Reading the file out in HP tuners. I already have it there, just finished. So we're gonna name it Tony to read. Well, we'll do Tony read 2, because the other ECU here is the one that was in the car and the one that we read out. But this is the brand new ECU with the brand new harness. I don't know if I think they tried this ECU, but we're just downloading it and saving it. Should be exactly the same file. I have the scanner up. We'll connect it and start recording. The key is on currently. So here it's showing 27% throttle, which is kind of normal. 101 kPa, which is good. Engine coolant 82 degrees. Intake air temp is 97, which I definitely agree with. So I'm going to move the throttle and see if it actually changes. We should see 3 spikes, which we do right there. So that's good. I have oil pressure on there. So fuel pump's hooked back up. Everything I could think. So the car should start. Should. It's in park. when it starts, and then the system goes to closed loop as quick as it can. But sounds good. Actually sounds a little bit different than it did before. I'm not sure if like the calibration is updated or something, or if just whatever that issue was is now gone. But mainly what I'm looking for is this code, which would come pretty quick. And it is giving us that code, 0641, sensor reference voltage. Well, that really sucks. I did not expect to get that code. Alrighty. So once I get that code, usually we lose the pedal. I am at a loss right now. That really sucks. So if we look through the diagnostics, we can see if they left something on. Driver 5, line 2, I don't know what that one is. So that's the only one in here that I see is the transmission control. Here somewhere. This one. For me, that should not be on. Let's see if we still have middle. Still has the pedal though. With the other one, it would lose the pedal. Still there. So we know that code is existing. I'm gonna check that the coolant fan comes on. I think it comes on around 204 degrees. doesn't make sense that it has a transmission. Okay, the fan just turned on. That's good. That's working. Okay, so I'm going to keep digging into this. I'm going to keep digging into this, and I'll get it figured out. To me, it's just, it's something simple. Maybe that code, that transmission code. It doesn't have a transmission controller. Factory wise, it doesn't. Yeah, I'll get this figured out and I will report back. Okay, so I actually just called Junior, got off the phone with him, and called Blueprint, but then I kind of listened to Junior a little bit more. I'm a talker more than I am a listener, apparently. And this was weird. So I came over to the car and it had the code. So we'll turn it on first, do connect, do record, and I did read DTCs, and it'll come up no DTCs detected. So I said, huh, that's weird. Let's start it. Now, it gave us that permanent code immediately with that initial start. But now, click read again, no DTCs. Read again, no DTCs. Well, no DTCs. So being that that was a permanent code, but it did not yesterday it showed pending, history, current. Today it was only showing it as a permanent code, so that's why I had called Junior. They had actually put this ECU on and started the car. So I think that harness was definitely bad, and that's what triggered that code and put it into this ECU. But now that the new harness is on, it's not actually triggering the code, and after an ignition cycle, the code is now gone. Whereas it came up immediately yesterday, and this is, pulling, 13% fuel. At idle, 10%, 11%, 12%, and then it starts with the long-term trend starts going a little crazy. But it's pulling a little fuel. It's a little rich at idle, which, could be the massive amount of timing offset. So if you watch where the spark here jumping all over, and that's to give it the blah 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 blah, chop. And I cannot control spark. smart. I mean, throwing the code is awesome. Still no DTCs. So, I like that. Still got a pedal. Alrighty then. So that's a good thing. No codes. So obviously the harness, and I also on the phone with Junior noticed that a couple of the wires here are different colors. Not that the colors mean anything, but a couple of the wires on this one, the colors are a little bit different, which could be that harness is actually a different setup, or that this harness was a revision to that one not being correct. Could be. I haven't touched the bulkhead connector yet. That's this one here. I haven't done anything with it, but all the colors seem to line up. I am going to pull the cap off and actually go through and test my throttle position and whatnot, and then go from there with possibly getting the gauges to work. Junior's going to send over the schematic that Factory 5 sent, and from what he understands and what I understand from him relaying it to me, Factory 5 has a lot of LS builds, but they're more toward carbureted, which is a pretty simple deal with an LS. You just change the intake, put a carburetor, put an MSD box to control the coils, and away you go. So that being the case, you know, he's kind of thinking that them doing it, you know, factory fuel injection and stuff is something that's not really their regular over there. So that's where they're kind of, in my opinion, they kind of threw parts at Tony that they haven't really tried and tested yet. You know, they haven't quite figured everything out 100% is how I understand it. But that being said, the car is back and running. Sounds really, really good. I will move on to now doing the MSD, wiring that in without cutting apart and tapping into the harness. I want to just use that bulkhead and try and get it to give me the signals that I need for the MSD, which is basically RPM and TPS. And then move on to getting the gauges hooked up, which we have the coolant sensor here that I believe he said Tony put this in, the owner of the car, he put this in, and he put a coolant sensor down there, and then the oil pressure is over there that Junior had tied into the oil pressure sensor, but we are gonna try to not tie into things that way. And now my phone is ringing, but for now, that's it on this one. I appreciate you watching. Give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Have a good